Okay, welcome back. Let's jump directly into our next session, which will be a panel hosted by our CMO, Thomas Hasselman, on location innovations and use cases in retail. Handing over to you, Thomas.
Thank you, Sari, and hope you all had a great break. We're going to shift gear now a bit, and I have the honor to host the following panel discussion. It's going to be around retail. My name is Thomas Hasselman, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Quuppa. Of today will be around retail, smart retail, and how location obviously makes it even smarter in various contexts. Before going into the topics to be discussed, I'd love to introduce you to the panelists. So I'm going to give you guys a minute or so to present your company and yourself, and then we get to the topic itself. So Jacopo, do you want to start?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacopo Carreras, and I'm one of the founders and CEO of ThinkInsight. We are an Italian-based company specialized in location intelligence, which means, in other words, we take the dot on the map provided by Quuppa and we transform it into advanced services for our end customers. And retail is one of the industries that we started from. And so I'm very happy to be here and to report about our experience, and some of the cases that we have been working on over the last years.
Great. Welcome, Jacopo. Good to have you on board. And Thomas, over to you.
Yeah, hello, Thomas Kladensky, my name. I'm product manager for the vertical retail at Zumtobel. Zumtobel is a lighting manufacturer and worldwide active, main market Europe, and my responsibility is to enable our lighting infrastructure and provide value add on top of our infrastructure to reduce the total cost of ownership in such an investment, and also to enable the IoT use cases provided by an RTLS or as well the applications on top.
Excellent. Yeah, this is an interesting angle that Thomas is bringing with the smart lighting. So you can hear some interesting comments today. And then Mikko, over to you.
Thank you, Thomas. Hello, everybody. My name is Mikko. It's great to be here today. Now, I work for Silicon Labs, and Silicon Labs, if you don't know, we are a technology provider. We provide silicon and mostly wireless connectivity for a lot of solutions. Retail, commercial lighting, RTLS being some of those. What I do at Silicon Labs is I manage our retail and commercial segment, and that includes RTLS, wireless access points, connected lighting, just to mention a few. So this is fits me very well, this topic. Thank you.
Thanks, Mikko. Welcome. All right. So the retail space, there's quite a lot of things that has happened in the world in the last 12 to 18 months, and obviously COVID is probably the biggest one having an impact on also the retail space. So I'm sure we're going to be touching on topics related to the impact of COVID, being it then on the safety of ensuring the safety of the workers and the consumers, and the behavioral changes of the consumers moving more from on in-store shopping to e-commerce type of models. So more to follow on that one. Also, I'm sure that there will be discussions around how the customer experience is being enhanced and delighted over the omni-channel approach by many retailers in the world today, even more than before, really fighting for the loyalty of their customers. So that's something that's also increasing in focus by the retailers. And then, of course, something retail being a very tight margin business, a low margin business, cost efficiencies across the board, process optimization, things that puts the retailer really to the test, especially in the world today when a lot is ordered online. You might pick up the goods from the curbside, or goods are being delivered to your home. So these are all trends that are contributing to how the retail world is changing and to the need for digitalizing it as well. But let's get started. So Jacopo, how is the retail market changing in your view?
So this is a very interesting question, meaning that what we are observing right now is that it's a very exciting time to be in retail tech for many different reasons. But the main one is that there is a lot of innovation going on. So when it comes to retail, and especially the area of supermarkets, so that's an industry that has been static for a very long time. And when I mean static, I mean that mainly innovation was happening because of maybe experimenting with new store formats. And I'm thinking about the hypermarket, the Walmart model being exported in Europe, working or not working. This was one of the main innovations. The other innovation was trying to understand the demographic of people, or where to open or not to open a given store. But let me say that from the standard operations of a retail store, of a supermarket, nothing really has changed since ever, I would say. So everything has been run with a bit more of support and help of computer science and informatics and IT, but no major changes. And a big change is actually happening in these days for many different reasons. Because consumers are changing, so there's new consumer habits, a lot of demand in terms of personalization. E-commerce, of course, is playing a fundamental role in really changing the way we used to shop. And on the other hand, technology is now getting to the point where it can make a very, very big difference in the way we actually experiment, not only the online retail, but also the physical retail. And so there are so many things going, which is kind of in a way summarized from probably the most famous example, which is Amazon Go in this respect. That we all know Amazon Go is like a great shopping experience with many different benefits, but of course it comes with a cost, a high cost. The cost of an Amazon Go is really, really high. And so from Amazon Go, which is like probably a very good match for small stores, to like hypermarkets or supermarkets, there's like a plethora of different technological options that can actually serve the needs of future retail. And in this respect, so many players are coming in, so many technologies are showing up, so many things that actually can be done, and actually that retailers are actually using to experiment how retail will be in the near future. I'm not saying like tens of years, but really we're talking about the near future, and things are really happening. So very exciting times for being here, for working in this segment, and then to really try to make the difference in what will be the future of retail.
Thanks, Jacopo. Maybe an appropriate question for Thomas, who comes in from a bit different angle here. That how do you see the retail space now evolving when it comes to the ecosystem and the different stakeholders and the players? And what is the approach you are taking as Zuntabel?
Well, first of all, I totally agree with the statement of Jacopo, because of course especially brick and mortar business was static and in that term, and of course the online business is growing. Online business is growing dramatically, of course, especially when it comes to the pandemic. Right now, everybody's going online. Even supermarkets have to change at a certain way their business model, but we also see that the number of requests rising quite a lot. Also the retailer, when we talk about lighting infrastructure, it's not only about discussing about good lighting, how to set up everything in the store, and the store design. Of course, it's very important, but still, what can a lighting infrastructure can give as a value add, as I initially also said. And this value add can be, on the one side, measuring ambient values, or also providing location data with your solution. And that brings us in a situation where we then also are allowed, or would say have the chance to talk to other people and other stakeholders within the retailer. And also retail itself is what we see. Many of them, or we'll say most of them, would like to enter the digital market or the digitalization, but do not know how exactly to do. They also do not devote that much time as maybe it's necessary. I would say so. Yeah, it's a bit of a motivated statement from myself, but I'm still thinking that the more you focus on the data that you can generate of the lighting infrastructure, and together with the RTLS, the more you can gain. And of course, there are a lot of companies entering right now into this market. And also the competition also for Zumtobel is rising, because we are not only a lighting manufacturer anymore, but we are providing a value add.
Exactly. Yeah, and I can imagine that you guys are going through quite some changes in the company, from lighting to IoT to location,
Yes.
and that introduces quite a few discussions with new stakeholders on the other side of the table. Exciting times. So then I guess for us as Quuppa, we are of course interested to understand how does location awareness fit into the retail space. In the retail space, I mean, there's quite a few stakeholders I can think of, but where does really the location play a big role? So Mikko, what are your views on this one?
Yeah, I would highlight three things what I've seen, especially in the last 12 to 18 months. And you mentioned, Thomas, retail being challenging when it comes to gross margins, and location, as is, retail is not unique. I think one thing we see is people try to increase efficiencies, in how they move goods, how they move people. If you can reduce on the number of labor you use by bringing technology on board, if that makes you more efficient, you typically save money. So I think that's something we see in retail, and in other places as well. The other thing I would highlight, this probably has been a trend in the last, or the pandemic era, is, retailers have seen a large increase in these click and collect orders. So people don't want to go to large supermarkets, they want to stay home, they order online and have somebody deliver the orders for them. And what we've seen is, if you can help the store associates move through the store more efficiently, more quickly, find whatever they're looking for, and increase efficiency, that again translates to more revenue for the retailers, and more efficiencies, I would say. Maybe the third thing I'd like to highlight is, which kind of already came up, is the traditional retailers. They've started to compete, or the online retailers have started to compete with the traditional ones. And the third use case I've seen for location is trying to understand what the consumers do in the store, where they spend time, what products they look at, how do they move in the store. So trying to bring the same visibility the online retailers get when people go to the websites like Amazon.com, and what products they search for, what products they look, what they end up buying. And I think that traditional retailers would like to get that same visibility to what people do in the store. So those are probably the three major things I've seen.
Yeah, I can imagine that the digital footprint that you get when browsing website is what you like to replicate in the physical store, to really know better how to get your conversion rates up there. And Jacopo, I guess this is something where I'm knowing you from years back, is something where you got started with the retail. So your learnings over the journey here, I would appreciate your comments.
No, exactly. If I may further comment, also Mikko's point, what is very interesting is that, and of course, one of the greatest opportunity of working in the space is that if we think about these many different functions within, a retail shop, talking about operations, talking about engagement, talking about people specialize in different things like merchandising strategies or layout optimization, all these kind of areas which are very, very different in terms of function. They can all benefit and take advantage from location data. So as we said, if it's about operations, knowing when and how to do certain things and where to do certain things has a great value. Knowing where products are located, being able to update the planogram has a great value for many different functions within the store, which links back to the e-commerce. Knowing what shoppers do, it's one of the key advantages of e-commerce. Being able to analyze, what shoppers do, the footprint, their, foot traffic, and linking this with sales, and having a data-driven approach to store management and store operations is something that really is of great value, and is actually what they're trying to do when replicating the e-commerce success in a physical store. Of course, here is much more difficult and complex. You need to take into account that it's not just a cookie that you're tracking, but it's a shopper. And so you need actually to take account, a different complexity and a different time and implementation time, but the benefit can definitely be the same. And indeed, this shopper analytics is actually what we started from since a long time. So we have, running projects in many different countries around the world, and all of these projects are confirming that it's the value that you can get in return. It's really phenomenal. Understanding what shoppers do, being able to use this data to drive your decisions across, maybe learning from one single store, replicating to many others, is actually something that also in terms of return, and I know we're going to touch this point later on, actually can be of great help for retailers, for single store owners. And again, this is just one of the many different facets in which actually location can play a fundamental role and provide a very great benefit for all the different stakeholders involved. When I'm talking retailer, but I'm also thinking about the shopper and the consumer who could benefit from receiving personalized services. And it's not just about marketing and proximity marketing and these kind of things. It's really about personalizing your shopping experience, making sure that when you get there, you receive a service that go beyond the simple shopping. The retailer is in a way helping you to shop, providing interesting suggestions, providing things that perfectly match your expectation, your needs, and in a way, the main reason why you are there. Yeah.
Yeah, these are. I mean, getting now into the topic of what are the use cases that are mostly being sought after and used. So let's continue on that same topic. Thomas, when you are pitching to your retail customers going beyond lighting, so what's the kind of a spearhead use cases that you are experiencing being the most popular ones?
Well, when it comes to lighting itself, is of course the integration of the technology into our lighting infrastructure. Also, when it comes to installing the stuff, it's costly for the customer, and we need to imagine that if you would like to roll out an RTLS system that has a certain accuracy and a certain quality behind, then the retailer needs to understand the particular investment, and the lower it can get, the better. And with our integration in our luminaires, it can drastically be reduced. Depends on the grade of integration, but up to 40% is definitely possible. So this is one thing. And of course, we also approach our customer with the end-to-end use cases with customer behavioral data, so how the customer behaves in a store, to get the data out of that, and then also to understand how maybe a store design can affect, or a change in a store design can affect sales. But the major use cases are all use cases around proximity marketing. Customers entering a store maybe has an application running from the specific retailer, and a welcome message is popping up, and through the shopping itself, the customer is getting push notifications or advertisements or services, additional services that can first of all increase the shopping experience. That also leads to customer retention. Usually, the better the customer likes the shopping, would say, the higher the probability is that the customer comes back. And the second thing is also what we have done as some trials already. Once you have introduced proximity marketing, you can significantly increase the sales by using proximity marketing services, or also called marketing services, as we say so. So everything that's around smartphone, and as well tracking the behavior of a customer, is valuable for a retailer. And the more that the retailer can devote its time to this data, the better is the outcome, the higher the benefit.
Yeah, that so clearly the common denominator very much, Thomas, for you is really around the experience around your smartphone, where you are as well.
Yeah, this is when you compare this with online and offline. Online business, they measure where you are, how long you stay on a page. They can rapidly adapt because of the data they have from I don't know, hundreds of users. And while being on the store, you get additional information other customers bought as well, or since you're at that page, you're gonna get a pop-up, the chatbot is talking to you, right? This is the right moment when a customer is let's say his senses are open for getting new information, and the same has to happen locally. But how do you do this? You can't just talk to every customer in a supermarket or in a do-it-yourself store or in a fashion store. It's almost impossible, right? And if you would like to get into more cross-selling, into to engage the customer locally, then you need to hit the nail at that point when and based on their also the recommend based on the preferences a customer has. You really would like to address the correct ad to the customer and hit the nail, and then you also you're gonna be successful.
Yeah, I mean the wrong ad will cause a counter effect. You're gonna get really annoyed at it. So that's clearly of importance. So Mikko, then your experience from the what are really the use cases that you've been engaged with your customers with mainly retail?
Well, I think I already spoke to some of the use cases. So you know, I would kind of call out you know, kind of those click and collect orders. You know, how can we make those more efficient? You know, have the store associates move to the store. You know, find the products quicker. You know, that of course applies to consumers as well. You know, if you go to the store, let's say an unknown large supermarket, and if the retailer can help you to find your products faster and move around the store, that's going to make you a happier customer and maybe more likely to return.
Yeah,
and then of course, again, you know, we've seen multiple use cases, just, you know, even helping the staff staffing the store. You know, sometimes they don't know where the products are, whether they are the handheld scanners they use to do inventory, or, you know, point of sale terminals. So again, you know, finding those, making them more efficient and, you know, cost effective is you know, some of the things we've seen.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the tree, and this by accident happened. When selecting the panelists, I've just realized that when you look at the different stakeholders, so the use case is very much that Jacopo brought up, where at least in the early days, the retailer wanted to understand. So read the in-store analytics, tagging the shopping carts and trolleys, analyzing how they move about in the stores, and adding the conversion rates to it. Thomas talks more about then the user experience, what's in his hand, the smartphone experience, how to really incentivize the shopper to buy more. And the Mikko brings up very much the associates, the ones collecting the orders, and why not even how efficiently serving the customers. So it's really coming from the associates point of view. So it's all relates to location, the contextual location of where something is happening. And I guess what I haven't seen much is how do we incentivize or motivate really the associates in the store to really do their most to do help upselling and cross-selling to the customers in the store. So if anybody has any comments on that one, please speak up now, because mainly it's been about retailers interested in in-store analytics or then the in-store marketing. Any comments on that?
So that's a good point, and I think is, you know, is part of the path of digitalization. Meaning that, you know, the very first thing for enabling also this new way of also associate to actually operate in the store is to create you know, what is more often used in the industry sector, but it's like a digital twin of the store. Because only once you have this kind of digital twin, so you can better coordinate, you know, who's doing what in the store, including the associates. Right now, because again, they had been operating in this way for such a long time, everything is kind of, you know, assigned to a given task. And it's very hard to kind of change this kind of approach. So like one project, as an example, that we're running right now, it's about queue management. And queue management, the way it works as of today is that you plan the checkouts, you plan, you know, which checkout is to be open now and which one in 1 hour. And maybe you kind of review this over time because maybe you look at peak loads and things like this. But it's almost impossible that you do this extremely dynamic. drastically. So you don't change an associate from the checkout to maybe some other task and operation in the store. The main reason being that you don't have a way to fully control what is actually happening in real time, automating a lot of tasks and activities. Because one other thing that we already learned very well is that everyone is very busy in the store. So unless you have technology that can actually help you, and with some intelligence, and artificial intelligence again is playing a very important role here, unless there is some of this technology that can actually suggest you what to best do at which time, then it's very difficult to coordinate the many different tasks and activities happening in the store. And this also reflects on the associates, that is very hard for them to kind of use the best of these technologies unless there is some artificial intelligence to coordinate all this. And when we put all these things together, I think technologies are kind of becoming part of a more structured ecosystem, which is not just about single technology, but it's about really integrating the different pieces into a unified framework that eventually is processed by this kind of higher intelligence. It's actually overlooking at everything that is happening in the store, and eventually the last step will be to kind of make everything much more reactive or even proactive, so anticipating things before they happen in the store. And I'm thinking about out of stock. I'm thinking about abnormal traffic in the store, so you should reactively open your checkouts before actually the people get to the checkout. So a lot of things will happen. A lot of these things will be reflected in the way associate will operate in the near future because of technology, thanks to technology, and everything then links back also to the aspects that also Mikko was mentioning. It's about operational efficiency. It's about really streamlining everything that is actually happening in the store with the ultimate goal of reducing cost, improving efficiency, and also providing a very good service to the customer and the shoppers in the store.
Yeah, and the last one you mentioned, Jacopo, is something that resonates with the fact that people do want to still visit the stores, and especially retail or grocery stores. It's understandable, but still, when you go there, you want to have an experience that's beyond the normal clicking the goods on the website and ordering the product. So that's why I think that the incentivizing and motivating the associates to really provide that service is so important. So. Good. Any other comments on the use cases before we move on? The one that we didn't touch upon too much in this discussion was on what happens in the back room. So to say on the loading bay and getting the goods in and knowing where the goods are from a logistics and supply chain point of view. And that's something we did on purpose. It's something that we will be covering in one of the later panel discussions at this Quuppa Virtual Event. So do please sign up for that one as well. There's quite a lot of benefits to leverage from digitalizing that supply chain process in the stores itself. Good. We have to touch this one. So the challenges. So why aren't we all yet in every store deploying location-based systems, tagging and tracking and providing contextual services to all the consumers? So what is it that's holding us back? So Mikko, what's your take on this one?
That's a great question. I do have a couple of views on this. Coming from a technology company, of course, the first thing I'm going to say is, there hasn't been really a technology to do this. Not at least for decades. So just having technology which is capable of giving you the accuracy. And what I've seen in the retail environment, people want to get down to an eye level of accuracy to start with, because if you want to direct, whether it's the store associates or the consumers, you want to get them to the right aisle, not the wrong aisle. If you want to track, let's say, where the products are in the shelves, you need even more accuracy. So that's one key thing. I think with technologies like what Quuppa's doing, from accuracy perspective, we're getting there. A couple of other key things. Eventually everything comes to ROI. It's one critical thing in a margin challenge business is also cost. Even if you can hit the accuracy, if the cost is so high that you actually can't do it, nobody will do it. And you think about some of, for example, the large retail chains, they might have thousands of stores. you know, in Europe, North America, and you know, if it takes $50,000 to deploy such a solution per store, you're looking at $100 million of investment to deploy the technology. So you know, it needs to be cost effective enough for the retailers to actually be able to afford it, and you know, get, you know, the return on investment actually comes from the benefits. So whether it's more sales, increased efficiency, so it's kind of some of those three things. And you know, one thing when it you know, it's great that we have companies like Sympetel over here, is what we've seen in those retail spaces. There's different infrastructures. You know, commercial lighting is one of those. Every store has that. You know, probably all the retailers do they have Wi-Fi or other similar infrastructures. And I think, you know, people wouldn't want to have multiple infrastructures, because that again multiplies the cost. And if we can, you know, companies like Quuppa, Silicon Labs, Sympetel, and others, if we can work together to make the infrastructure more affordable and available, then I think we're going to see a massive uptake on what people want to track and can track. Because, you know, just getting, you know, it's like with GPS, somebody had to put the satellites in the sky. That was the big, you know, hard thing to do and big investment. Once they're up there, you know, the possibilities are endless, I think.
True. No, thank you, Mikko. Good observation. So, Thomas, are you the ones who are going to put the satellites in the stores?
Actually, this is our goal to do so, right? But yes, I also see this in the main challenge so far, of course, are the costs as a starting point, yeah, and also the scope what the retailer is following. Some of them are not ready, for example, having an application available for their customers, and even if they have an application available, the number of users is also depending if such an RTLS system makes sense in terms of creating custom experience. But what we see is starting with analyzing the customer behavior and then entering slowly into the business of creating custom experience is a very good way to go. And you do not have to equip at the beginning all of your stores. You just focus on some areas and just try to analyze if everything was great. This is affordable. This is doable quite quickly. And over time, of course, also our goal is to reduce the costs of installing such a system. And our luminaires are already made to, they are, we call them digital ready or digital service ready, future-proof luminaires, because you can add different technology on the luminaires, even though when you have already installed them. Also the older version of trunking system, for example, that is capable of, you can put other technology inside, so you reduce it significantly. Here we are continuing working on it. This is also our job to make this happening. But as well, we also need to work more together to bring the technology more deeper in the luminaire. So, and then it's going to be much more affordable for the customers.
Great. Yeah, I think we're on the right track on that one. Jacopo, what keeps you up at night then?
Well, I think that, you know, one other key challenge, but I see this also in a way also as an opportunity, is the fact that, you know, coming back also to one of the first points that we touched, is this complex ecosystem that is the retail shop. So in a retail shop, there's so many players, and I'm talking about you know, traditionally hardware providers. And when I say hardware, I'm mostly referring to providers of shopping carts and baskets and lighting infrastructure. So they are there since ever, and now they're kind of moving into this kind of service-oriented approach. So the retail shop is becoming a service ecosystem. On the other hand, there's so many also technology providers. So there are, you know, we all know there's so many technologies that are coming in. So we're talking about ESL, we're talking about location, we're talking about POS, and we're talking about so many technologies. And one of the key challenges is that as of today, many, if not most of these technologies are kind of working in isolation. And this actually prevents this kind of multiplicating factor that would derive from working all as one single infrastructure, talking to each other in a kind of pretty seamless and smooth way, and really trying to address what are currently the key challenges of retail. So to me, this kind of fragmentation is one of the key challenges that is actually preventing, the rapid uptake of this kind of technologies. The more we'll be able to work together, and here actually I think we already start to have some good examples. Us working with Zoomtobel, combining, the lighting infrastructure, which actually solving definitely one of the problems, which is the total cost of infrastructure. And at the same time, it's basically providing a very good fit into a number of retail shops. Silicon Labs, again, starting to push into this kind of direction. They're a bit of everywhere as a vendor in many different components of the store. So probably they're one of the best players to try to orchestrate all this into some sort of unified approach to the future of retail. So trying to really kind of, one by one, connecting the dots of this kind of a retail ecosystem is one of the key challenges to be addressed. And actually, it's actually already happening now, and will definitely help in the uptake of this kind of technologies. And this, of course, linked to one of the key points touched also by Mikko, which is about proving the value of this. So the more we'll have evidence of the returns, the more the evidence will be actually available to everyone to judge. So it's an investment, but it's clear the return. The more this will happen, the easier then will be to also decide to invest large amounts of money, which are required maybe to put the satellites up in the sky and just push as hard as possible to kind of bring all this kind of potential to the ground and just work and focus on the uptake of these kind of technologies.
Very good observations. Yeah, I mean, this is something we also at Quuppa see, that once you have the Quuppa systems up there, that the more they can do, the better. So it's providing the accuracy, providing presence detection, providing even IoT sensing capabilities, the better it is. So that we get that uniform enabler in place, which will bring down the costs. So good observations. So anything, let's get back to the topic that we all want to forget about still, COVID. So how do you see now, some markets we are getting out of COVID. I mean, talking about Finland, so far, touch wood, it looks good. Other markets we're still struggling with it, and with some markets it's still a very critical stage. So anything you're seeing, guys, from where you're sitting, that what will this year look like in retail, taking the COVID into account? So let's start with Mikko.
It's a good question, and not an easy one. I don't have the crystal ball at my hand to predict the future. One thing going back to last year, which I was surprised. We saw at Silicon Labs, we saw massive uptake on ESL, so electronic shelf labels, and a lot of retailers replacing those traditional printed labels with the electronic ones, and a lot of investment happened during COVID, which I first thought that people would maybe be a little bit cautious, not to do those massive investments when such uncertain times. But I think it's we're starting to see the digitalization of retail. Maybe COVID kicked it off. I don't know. I think that trend will continue this year, next year. So a little bit looking back, a little bit looking forward, but I think we start to see the digitalization there.
Yeah. Thomas, what's your
yeah, Mikko just said it. It was a kick, maybe a kickoff, or it was a kickoff for me. Somehow it feels like it was a kickoff for digitalization, because the requests we get now from our customers, like everybody would like to do people counting, people tracing, getting to know how the people form, where do they form, is it possible to do contact tracing with the system and stuff like that. These topics were not as present before COVID, and now, I mean, we are still in the phase. I mean, it's going to be continuing the next weeks, years, I believe. So it's going to be not over tomorrow, unfortunately. but that also gives us a lot of opportunities to enter into like also the mindset changed a bit, so we can openly discuss things that were not possible before. Yeah. So because when you trace a person or people, this is always like, should I really do it or not? I mean, when it's anonymously, it's of course not a problem, but still there was a kind of a barrier, and this barrier is getting thinner and thinner, I believe. So it's gonna be a push for us in the future.
Good ones. Jacopo, how do you see it?
Yeah, so I finally start to feel it in a positive way, at least from what we're doing, meaning that definitely retail was not as affected as other industries, although it was under pressure because everything changed in the way they had to operate retail shops over the COVID time. So a lot of innovation actually came in, mostly on the logistic, on the e-commerce side, on warehousing and everything. But I mean, that was, I think, very important to further push this kind of progress in the digitalization, in the digital transformation, in bringing technology to help the way they operate, the way they plan, and the way they manage a store. So now that actually, hopefully, and fingers crossed, the COVID actually is now getting in a much better situation across Europe. Hopefully all this kind of big technological push will remain and actually will be shifted maybe in other more traditional activities which are more related to the physical store, to all the many different things that we have been working on for many different years. So I'm definitely positive about this in this respect, and I think this actually is having a good impact on the way retailers actually operate and think about technology and think about the value that technology can provide. And I think hopefully this is something that will help to accelerate and address the many different challenges that we have been discussing today during this panel discussion.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think the new normal really requires digitalization, which is all music to our ears here. So, hey, thank you, Jacopo, Mikko, Thomas. This was at least for me, and I'm sure for the audience also, a very, very enlightening session. I learned a lot about retail I didn't know from before. I thank you all, and I'm wishing you a good day. And now over to Sari, who will do the closing of the day. So thank you.
Thank you, Thomas and the panelists. Really exciting stuff, and hope to see more location-enabled use cases in retail in the future. Now we will close it off for today, but tomorrow there will be another exciting day with interesting sessions, a keynote from Richard Lauder from Tire Engineering, followed by a safety panel hosted by Fabio Belloni, so hope to see you there. And if you are not able for some reason to join or have missed some of these sessions, no worries, all the sessions will be recorded and delivered to you after the event. Now, wishing you a great day from the Quuppa studio in Helsinki.